If you're planning to move to Switzerland or you've recently started working here, understanding the Swiss employment system is essential. Switzerland has a reputation for stability, strong salaries, and a high quality of life, but it also has its own unique rules, expectations, and workplace culture. In this video, we're going to walk through the key aspects of employment in Switzerland. We'll cover employment contracts, probation periods, working hours, salaries, vacation entitlements, sick leave, parental leave, workplace protections, and what happens if a job ends. By the end of this guide, you should have a clear understanding of your rights and responsibilities as an employee in Switzerland. In Switzerland, employment relationships are usually governed by written employment contracts, although under Swiss law, an employment relationship can technically exist even if the agreement is made verbally. In practice, however, almost all employers provide written contracts because they clearly define the expectations and responsibilities for both sides. A typical Swiss employment contract will include several key elements: job title and description of responsibilities, start date of employment, salary and payment schedule, working hours, vacation entitlement, probation period, notice period, overtime policies, any bonus structures or benefits. Contracts may also include additional clauses covering topics such as confidentiality, intellectual property, remote work arrangements, and sometimes non-competition clauses that restrict employees from working for competitors after leaving the company. Another important aspect of the Swiss employment landscape is the presence of collective labor agreements, known as GAVI in German or CCT in French. These agreements are negotiated between employers' associations and trade unions in certain industries such as construction, hospitality, retail, and manufacturing. Collective agreements often define minimum salaries, maximum working hours, overtime rules, holiday allowances, training obligations. If your industry is covered by one of these agreements, its rules can override or supplement individual employment contracts. Before signing a contract in Switzerland, it is always a good idea to carefully review the document and ensure you understand the terms. Pay particular attention to notice periods, working hours, and any clauses that might affect your future employment options. Most employment contracts in Switzerland include a probation period known in German as the Probezeit. Under Swiss law, the default probation period is 1 month, but employers and employees can agree to extend this period in the contract. The maximum allowed probation period is 3 months. During this time, both the employer and the employee have an opportunity to evaluate whether the working relationship is suitable. Employers can assess performance, teamwork, and integration into the company, while employees can decide whether the role, the environment, and the responsibilities meet their expectations. One important difference during the probation period is the notice period for termination. Instead of the longer notice periods that apply later, either party can terminate the employment contract with 7 days' notice during probation. This shorter notice period provides flexibility for both sides if the position turns out not to be the right fit. In some situations, such as illness or absence, the probation period may be extended slightly to ensure the employer has sufficient time to evaluate the employee's performance. Once the probation period ends, the employment relationship becomes more stable and longer notice periods apply. Working hours in Switzerland are regulated by the Federal Labor Act, which sets legal limits designed to protect employee health and ensure reasonable work-life balance. The maximum legal working hours are 45 hours per week for employees in offices, technical professions, and retail, and 50 hours per week for workers in many other sectors. These are legal maximums rather than typical working hours. In practice, many full-time positions involve 40 to 42 hours per week, depending on the employer and industry. Employers must also respect mandatory rest periods. For example, employees must receive at least 11 consecutive hours of rest between 2 working days. Breaks during the day are also required if work exceeds certain lengths. Overtime is allowed but regulated. When employees work beyond their agreed working hours, this is generally considered overtime. Swiss law usually requires that overtime be compensated in one of 2 ways: additional time off of equal duration, or payment with a 25% salary supplement. However, in some contracts, Especially for senior employees, overtime may already be included in the salary. Another notable feature of Swiss working culture is that although working hours are taken seriously, employers also tend to value efficiency and productivity. Long hours alone are not necessarily viewed as a sign of good performance. Unlike many countries, Switzerland does not have a nationwide minimum wage. However, several cantons have introduced their own minimum wages through regional legislation. These include Geneva, which has one of the highest minimum wages in the world at around 24 Swiss francs per hour, Neuchâtel, Jura, Basel City, Ticino. These cantonal minimum wages apply to most employees working within those regions. In addition, collective labor agreements in certain industries define minimum salary levels. These agreements ensure workers in specific sectors receive fair compensation. Despite the lack of a national minimum wage, Switzerland generally offers high average salaries, particularly in fields such as finance, pharmaceuticals, engineering, and information technology. However, it is important to remember that Switzerland also has a high cost of living, particularly in cities like Zurich, Geneva, and Basel. When evaluating a job offer, it is useful to consider not only the gross salary, but also the deductions for taxes, pension contributions, and health insurance. Swiss law guarantees a minimum amount of paid vacation for employees. The legal minimum is 4 weeks of paid vacation per year. For employees under the age of 20, the minimum is higher at 5 weeks per year. These are minimum legal requirements. In practice, many companies offer 5 weeks of vacation, especially in professional or corporate environments. Vacation days must generally be taken during the calendar year, although some employers allow a limited number of days to be carried over to the following year. Swiss labor law also emphasizes that vacation should serve its purpose of providing rest and recovery. For this reason, employers generally cannot replace vacation time with additional salary while the employment relationship continues. Only when employment ends can unused vacation days be compensated financially. Employees are typically expected to coordinate vacation schedules with their employer to ensure business operations continue smoothly. Public holidays in Switzerland vary significantly depending on the canton. Unlike some countries where holidays are defined at the national level, Switzerland allows cantons to determine most of their own public holidays. The only nationwide public holiday is Swiss National Day on August 1st. Most cantons observe between 8 and 9 public holidays per year, though the exact dates can vary. Common examples include Christmas Day, Easter Monday, Ascension Day, Whit Monday. Public holidays are generally treated similarly to Sundays under labor law. This means that many businesses close, and employees are not normally required to work unless they are employed in sectors where Sunday work is permitted, such as hospitality, healthcare, or transportation. If employees do work on public holidays, additional compensation or time off may apply, depending on the employment contract or collective labor agreement. It should also be noted that if a public holiday falls on a weekend, then it is effectively lost. Illness can happen at any time, and Swiss labor law provides protections for employees who are temporarily unable to work due to health issues. If an employee becomes sick and cannot work, they must notify their employer as soon as possible. In most cases, employers require a medical certificate from a doctor if the absence lasts more than 3 consecutive days, although some companies require a certificate starting from the first day. Swiss law also requires employers to continue paying salary for a limited period during illness. The duration of this salary continuation depends on how long the employee has worked for the company. In general, employees are entitled to at least 3 weeks of continued salary during the first year of employment. The duration increases in later years based on regional scales used by Swiss courts. Many employers go beyond the minimum requirement by providing daily sickness insurance. This insurance typically covers around 80% of the employee's salary for up to 720 days in cases of long-term illness. Switzerland provides legally defined parental leave benefits. Maternity leave is set at 14 weeks after the birth of a child, paid at 80% of the mother's salary, up to a maximum daily limit defined by federal law. During this time, employers cannot require mothers to return to work earlier. In addition, Pregnant employees benefit from special protection against dismissal during pregnancy and for a certain period after childbirth. Paternity leave, introduced more recently, provides 2 weeks of paid leave, also compensated at 80% of salary. This leave can usually be taken within the first 6 months after the birth of the child. Some employers offer additional benefits beyond the legal minimum, such as longer parental leave or more flexible working arrangements for new parents. Swiss labor law includes a number of protections designed to safeguard employee well-being. The Federal Labor Act regulates several important aspects of employment, including maximum working hours, rest periods and breaks, night and Sunday work, workplace health and safety. Employers are required to ensure that working conditions do not endanger the physical or mental health of employees. Companies must also take measures to prevent workplace harassment, discrimination, and unsafe working environments. Special protections also exist for certain groups, including young workers, pregnant employees, employees working night shifts. These protections are intended to ensure that work environments remain fair, safe, and sustainable. Swiss employment law allows employment relationships to be terminated by either the employer or the employee, provided that the agreed notice periods are respected. The standard legal notice periods are 1 month during the first year of employment, 2 months from the second to the 9th year, 3 months after 10 years of employment. However, employment contracts can define different notice periods as long as they apply equally to both parties. Swiss law also includes rules designed to prevent abusive termination. A dismissal may be considered abusive if it occurs for discriminatory reasons or in retaliation for legitimate actions taken by the employee. Employees also benefit from protection against dismissal during certain protected periods, such as illness or accident, pregnancy, military service. During these periods, termination may be delayed or considered invalid. Swiss workplace culture places strong emphasis on punctuality, professionalism, and reliability. Meetings typically begin exactly on time, and being late is generally considered unprofessional. Swiss workplaces often value precision, planning, and efficiency. Employees are expected to prepare thoroughly, follow procedures carefully, and deliver work to a high standard. Communication styles can vary depending on the region and industry, but conversations tend to be direct, factual, and respectful. Hierarchy exists in many organizations, but many workplaces also maintain collaborative environments where employees are encouraged to contribute ideas. Work-life balance is generally respected, and many companies encourage employees to maintain a clear separation between work time and personal time. Even in well-structured workplaces, conflicts can occasionally arise. When a dispute occurs between an employee and an employer, the first step is usually to try resolving the issue internally through discussion with management or human resources. If a resolution cannot be reached, employees can seek assistance from the labor conciliation authorities in their canton. These authorities provide mediation services designed to help both parties resolve disputes without formal court proceedings. In more complex cases, employees may seek legal advice or representation. Switzerland's legal system places strong emphasis on mediation and structured conflict resolution, which often allows disputes to be settled without lengthy legal battles. Working in Switzerland offers many advantages: strong salaries, clear labor protections, and stable working conditions. But understanding the legal framework and cultural expectations is essential to making the most of your career here. Whether you're just arriving in Switzerland or planning your move, knowing your rights and responsibilities as an employee will help you navigate the Swiss workplace with confidence.